Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. It wasn't, don't do it. It was, none of that. It wasn't, she wasn't reading me the riot act. She just said, don't you think it'd probably be a good idea if you stayed home next month?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure this mega agent camp thing is every year. You can go next year, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at her and I thought, she's not wrong. I've been gone nonstop, right? All right. So I didn't go. Do you know that the morning of 9/11, I would have been in the air?
Oh my gosh. Wow.
No joke. I would have been in the air and I would have been diverted somewhere. We would have been right over New Mexico
Oh
on our way
wow.
to Austin.
Yeah.
There's no telling where we would have ended up.
Wow.
But that morning she came in and she goes, wake up, you've got to, I worked until like 4 o'clock in the morning that night. I was just crazy busy back then. And I had gone to bed and I'd been asleep for maybe 3 or 4 hours. And she came in and she goes, wake up, you got to see this. And she turns the television on and I'm sitting up in bed and I saw the second plane hit the second tower.
Oh my gosh.
And it
Yeah.
was like, and it happened live.
Right.
While I'm sort of
Right.
rubbing my eyes, trying to, figure out.
Yes.
And at the time, I think it was ABC. I was watching. At the time, ABC was saying that it had been a small Cessna, single engine Cessna plane that had flown into the North Tower.
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just sat there stunned for probably 2 hours. I mean, I didn't. It was like.
Wow.
It was like time stood still or something,
Wow.
right? But
Yeah.
no joke, I would have been in the air
Oh my gosh.
on my way up to Austin, Texas, because Mega Agent
Wow.
was the next day.
Right.
Literally.
You probably wouldn't have known though if you were in the air. I mean, you probably wouldn't have known what was going on, right?
No,
Maybe.
they didn't announce it. So
No.
what they did was the FAA shut all the airspace down.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I have a client that's actually a pilot. And I was talking to him about it, I don't know, maybe a few months later. And he goes, oh yeah, you'd have been over New Mexico. He goes, you probably would have been diverted to Albuquerque.
Oh wow.
Right.
Crazy.
And I'm like, really? And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, there were jumbo jets in Las Cruces. He's like, they just dumped them everywhere.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he goes, they dumped them, and then there weren't enough rental cars, and there weren't enough hotel rooms, and there weren't,
Right.
there were people staying in New Mexico and Texas. There were people staying in other people's private homes.
Yeah. Yeah.
People just went to the airport and opened up their houses to people
Oh wow, that's nice.
and let them come stay with them. I mean, it was one of the most unbelievable examples of.
Well, you would have been stuck. You would have been
Well, yeah,
stuck.
but it was such a cool thing to watch and to hear the stories of, and you know how I am with stories, right? But to hear the stories of people taking complete strangers in and just bringing them into their house, and people, there were people calling old college roommates and friends.
Oh gosh.
Because they knew that their parents had been landed in a particular place. And their parents went and stayed the night with that family.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't get a hotel room. You know what I mean? I mean, there were so many of those stories, Monica. It filled my heart,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what happens, and this is my opinion, but it doesn't matter what happens in life. If you look hard enough, you'll find a positive.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find a positive. And one of the things that 9/11 did was it galvanized us as a nation in a way that it never had before.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was crazy.
I will never forget that ever, ever, ever. Because
So
I
you-
was
so-
like, I watched it live. I saw
Yeah.
this at the tower also.
Yeah.
It
Isn't
was
that
awesome.
wild?
Yeah, crazy.
So you end up going to work for the CPA firm for 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then where do you go?
Well, that's I worked for the CPA. That was prior to CPA. Oh, after the CPA, then I went to another recruiting agency,
Gotcha.
and that's the second one I went to. That was when 9/11 hit.
Oh,
And
got it. Okay.
so my ex-husband and I, we decided, okay, what are we going to do? We were
Yeah.
coming down to San Diego a lot because like almost every weekend, because I had my daughter who was at that time probably 18 months.
Mhm.
And so my family down here wanted to see us all the time with the new
Sure.
baby.
Yeah.
So we would come down here all the time. And then we said, you know what? We're coming down here so much and we don't have jobs. Let's just move down here.
Yeah, what are we going back up there for, right?
Yeah, let's just move down here and get jobs down here and start here,
Right.
So we did. So when we came down here, I think it was, well, it wasn't right after 9/11. It was like 2002 we came down, and we rented a house in Mount Helix,
Mhm.
and then we should have bought that house. I just kicked myself because damn, we bought that house.
Yeah.
But he sold it. Our landlord sold it after. But then no, we bought our first house together in 2003 in El Cajon.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's how you ended up out here. That's cool.
Yeah. After that big whole thing with 9/11, we just lost our jobs. We just thought, let's do a new change, just get a new start on something. And we
Yeah.
came down here, and we love San Diego. I mean,
Absolutely.
I love LA also. I do, it's my home. But I love it here too. I love San Diego. It's such a great place for families, and um, there's so much to do here. There's a
Yeah.
lot to do here. We've got a lot to offer. So
No, I
yeah.
agree with you. We've been here 40 some years. I mean,
Oh, okay.
we came out
Yeah.
here in 1980.
Oh, wow.
So
From
44 years
where?
later.
Where'd you come from?
From Oklahoma.
Oh, from Oklahoma. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my dad, we were living in Oklahoma at the time, and my dad was working for an insurance company. He was an adjuster in Kansas, and he had a meeting with a guy in Kansas City at a barbecue restaurant. And the guy was late, and Dad was sitting in the waiting room, and there was a help wanted section of the paper sitting there. And he
Uh-huh.
just picked it up because he was looking for time to kill, right? And so he's looking at it, and there's an ad in there, and the ad basically described my dad. He felt like it
Oh,
described him to a T, right?
uh-huh.
So he calls the number, and the lady says, "Listen, if these are your qualifications, I'm sending you a ticket right now. I want you on a plane tomorrow to Pennsylvania." So the very next day, he gets on a plane, flies out to King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, and they literally hire him on the spot.
Oh, wow.
Okay? First interview, the whole deal.
Oh my gosh.
And so that's a company called Maaco, MAACO, called Maaco Auto Painting and Body Works.
Uh-huh.
And so they told him this, and for the first 2 years, you're going to travel all around the US and Canada, and you're going to put in these new Maaco centers. And so that's what he did. He'd fly in, they would interview all the people, they'd assemble all the staff, get it up and running, get it going, and then he'd get on a plane and go to the next place and put them in. He did that for 2 years.
Wow.
His last assignment was in Torrance, California.
Uh-huh.
And it was the middle of January. And normally it took us 2 hours to get him to the airport each way.
Oh.
This took us 5.5 hours. There were 4-foot snowdrifts on the
Oh
ground.
my gosh.
And they had to de-ice his plane twice out of Tulsa, Oklahoma to get him off the tarmac, to get him in the air.
Oh, wow.
He flies out to LAX. He beats the sun out there. We're having a Santa Ana out here. It's
Oh.
2 degrees and not a cloud in the sky when he
Oh,
lands.
wow.
He
Wow.
nearly kissed the ground that he was walking on, right?
Right.
So he goes to do his last assignment, putting in this Maaco Center in Torrance, and the headquarters calls him and says, "Hey, we need you to go to dinner Wednesday night with the founder of the company. He's flying out to the West Coast, wants to take you guys to dinner. And so he takes them out. He takes them out to dinner, and he goes, guys, our West Coast operations guy just quit. I need to know who that we can go get. You know how important the West Coast is to us. My dad raises his hand and he says, and Tony Martino says, "Great, Larry, who do you know?" And he goes, "Me." And he goes, "You're it. Call Marilyn and tell her to come out here and find a house, or get out here and find a house."
Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up in Oceanside.
Oh, wow. That's
right?
very cool.
Yeah. And they were in escrow on a house in San Antonio. My dad was going to be running Louisiana, Texas, and New Mexico for Mako.
Yeah.
And they ended up reassigning him to San Diego, to Southern California.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. What a great experience, and that's how you got out here. Awesome.
So here's your trivia thing. You ready?
Yeah.
When you're at a cocktail party, AMCO, AAMCO,
Yeah,
stands for Anthony A. Martino and Company.
really?
That's the first company he created.
Wow, that's
Turned
cool.
it into the #1 franchisor of transmission shops in the world.
That's cool.
Then he sells out to Pennzoil for $12 million in 1973, cash.
Wow.
Just tells his wife, we're going to move to Boca Raton, Florida, get a house on the golf course, and I'm going to play golf every day for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So they go down to Florida. He plays golf every day for 6 months. He comes home one day and his wife says, "Sit down, we need to talk." So he sits down and she says, "If you don't go back to work, I'm going to kill you. I love you.
Golf course all day.
Right? I love you. I couldn't love you more. But if you don't go back to work, I'm going to kill you." Right? She said, "You keep talking about starting this auto shop franchise. Go get your team from AMCO and you and your boys go to work."
Oh.
So they sold the house. They sold the house in Boca Raton and moved back to Pennsylvania, and Mako was born.
Oh, wow.
Which stands for Martino, Anthony A. and Company.
Wow, that's really cool. I love that story.
And
That's
both
great.
companies he created were #1 in franchising in that industry. Both of them.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
I love it.
I love it, love it, love
And
it.
I got a chance to meet him. And he thought so much of me that he told my dad, he said, "When that kid turns 18, he's mine."
So
it was pretty cool. That was a great relationship. That man was an absolute fireball. I mean, he just was a force of nature. I don't even know how else to explain it.
Wow.
So you end up down here. How do you get into real estate?
Good question. So we came down here and we found jobs, right?
Yeah.
I went into the corporate world. I actually worked for Cardinal Health.
Yeah.
Yeah. Up in Sorrento Valley. I was doing accounting for them and commissions analyst and all that kind of stuff. And I was going into that job, that work, like at 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. because I still had a young child. I still had a daughter who was very young, and I didn't want to be, away from her for too long. So I started there, and then I left that job after maybe a year and a half, and I stayed home for a little while to be with her and, just have that quality time. I really wanted quality time with my child. He found a job in recruiting down here. And then after like a year and a half, I went back to work, and I went for a company in downtown San Diego doing accounting also, because I have an accounting background. And the company that I work for downtown was in the Diamond Tower, which is the Diamond Tower. The Diamond Tower. Yep. It's right next to Petco. Yep. So we had the whole 13th floor. And first we were in the NBC building downtown. And then that lease was over, and then they leased out space at the Diamond Tower, which was brand new when we moved in. And it was really cool because we had like 2 balconies, and we could see the games and the concerts, and it was really awesome. That was a great place to work. So that company created websites for the travel industry. So like Kayak and Expedia. And so we created these websites for them. And then we, on the accounting side, we would have to count all the tickets that ran through those websites. It was quite a job.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Very, very tedious job. But I like numbers. I do. I'm like a numbers person. I love numbers. I love working with numbers. So then after that, that was about now we're talking about 2008 now, around there. I got laid off from that job, and then I went through a divorce at that time. So yeah.
Do you remember the Icon building across the street from you?
Yes, that we faced it.
I sold in there.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. The last one I sold in there had was on the 23rd floor and had a view right into your office.
Probably, because we had the whole 13th floor. Yeah, because we had like a view of everything. We had Petco, had Island, we had Icon, and then that's cool. But our two balconies faced the first balcony faced Petco, and then the second balcony faced the park.
Yeah, the one that faced Petco, we could see everything you were doing down there.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it was fun. It was cool.
Well, sometimes we would take the party upstairs, because upstairs in that building is a really cool room that lights up at night and stuff. So so that, and then so then after my divorce, I said, you know what, because I didn't have a job, and we know how the market was in 07, 08, 09. We had to foreclose on our home. Well, we were in a different house now. We bought a house in Rancho San Diego, in Monarch Ridge, really nice house. And that we had to short sale. We owned 3 properties at that time. Our house in El Cajon we kept. That was our first house that we owned. We kept that, but that short sold. Our Rancho San Diego short sold. Our house in Big Bear foreclosed. So it was just a horrible time. 2008, 2009, those were probably the worst years so far of my life, because going through a divorce, losing property, not having a job. I mean, it was very, very stressful. But I said, you know what? I think now is my opportunity to look into real estate, because, and this is, okay. Most people get into real estate because they want the flexibility, right? Well, I'll tell you something, folks. I work every single day from 9 to 5, even on Saturdays and Sundays. And when I go home, I'm still working. So we all think real estate flexible, you make a lot of money. Yeah, you make great money in real estate, but it's not very flexible if you want to be successful. Right. You got to work your buns off.
Yeah, it's not what people think.
It's not
totally close. And that's part of the reason, why I do all the training that I do, because I want people to understand,
absolutely.
I want people to understand that this is not what you hear it is. This is not what the media makes it sound like. This is, you know what I mean? It's just not. And I have, back when 2008 hit, we owned a Keller Williams office in Escondido. And we had to, I had to save that company. We came very, very close to going bankrupt.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It was a nonstop, just unreal, just struggle. I felt like I was swimming in jello for years,
Yeah.
We got it back, and we got everything back up and going, and we never lost the office, we never lost the company, we never went bankrupt, right? But and I learned a lot, I learned an absolute ton. I also learned what I was capable of.
Right.
Part of what came from a lot of that was an absolute need for training, an absolute need for people to learn what I had learned. You know what I mean? And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about giving back and
Yeah.
adding value everywhere I go, you know, and teaching and that
Mhm.
kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so anyway,
Well, you and I are very similar in that way, in that mindset, because I am very pro teaching, and which we'll probably get into here in a minute. I'm all for that. My goal is, because I mentor, right, and I also teach contracts here, and I also do the risk management here for our office. But my goal is to make sure that, okay, let's not just teach a class. Let's make sure that the agents come out understanding what they just were taught.
right.
I go deep into detail when I teach a contracts class. And if there's an agent in that class that doesn't fully understand what the terms of that contract are, I try to go and explain, sometimes even from my own experiences, right, what
Yeah.
this means. So I'm very passionate about that also. I love teaching. I love it. But I not just to teach and be there in that hour, but I want to make sure that those agents really understand what that specific paragraph is talking about. What does that mean? Okay, what are the contingencies mean? Okay, yeah, we always throw that out. Oh, contingencies have to be released. Da, 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 da. Well, what does that mean? Right? And a newer agent doesn't exactly know why there even is a contingency, right? On a
Right.
contract. So, but anyway, so
So do you mind if I share something with you?
yeah.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.